It's a beautiful Monday morning right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Good morning, good evening, wherever in the world you're watching from. It's Business Morning live on Channels Television. I'm Ladi Williams. First off, let's take a look at what's happening with the market. We see oil prices jumped early today after the U.S. and Western allies imposed sanctions on specific Russian banks, prompting fears that energy supplies will be indirectly affected. Brent crude, the international oil benchmark, rose by as much as 7% to trade as high as $105 per barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures also gained as much as 7% to trade at $98 per barrel. Prices later eased slightly. WTI was up 5% at $96.20 per barrel, while Brent gained 4.78% to trade at 102.61 cents per barrel. Both contracts broke above $100 on Thursday for the first time since 2014 after Russia invaded Ukraine. However, the initial spike was somewhat short-lived, with WTI and Brent retreating throughout Thursday's session and into Friday's trading after the White House first round of sanctions did not target Russia's energy system. And leading indigenous energy company Seplat Energy is set to acquire the entire share capital of Mobil Producing Nigeria Unlimited from its Texas-based parent company ExxonMobil. In a statement released, the energy company, which is listed on the Nigerian exchange and the London Stock Exchange, explains that it has entered into a sale and purchase agreement to acquire the entire share capital of Mobil Nigeria for a purchase price of $1.28 billion and about $300 million contingent consideration with effect from January the 1st, 2021. The company states that the deal, which is the first major transaction to be announced since the federal government ratified the Petroleum Industry Act on August the 16th, 2021, would support Nigeria's energy transition and objectives of the PIA. According to Seplat's Chief Executive Officer, Roger Brown, the deal is in line with the company's drive to be Nigeria's leading indigenous independent energy firm, while the chairman of Seplat Energy, Dr. Bryant Ojako, describes the deal as transformational for the company, as it strengthens the partnership with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and consummates the spirit of the newly enacted Petroleum Industry Act. Meanwhile, the board expects the sale to close in the second half of this year and will be classified as a reverse takeover. However, the transaction is subject to approval from the Petroleum Minister, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, and the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. And after the break, we look at the federal government's Highway Development Management Initiative in bridging Nigeria's infrastructure deficit. That's in a moment. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning. All right, now to our first conversation. The federal government has opened the bidding process for the concession of some of the federal highways under its Highway Development Management Initiative, with 11 companies out of the earlier shortlisted 18 companies coming out successful in the value-added concession. The Highway Development Management Initiative was launched to further attract private sector funds to roads construction and rehabilitation across the country. Well, we have with us Bolaho Lojide, Executive Director at DMA Advisory Services Limited and expert public policy analyst, joining us on Business Morning. Great to have you. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Yeah. So looking at this now, what are some of the successes, of the Highway Development Management Initiative so far?
Well, so far, in my opinion, I think it's trying to set a pace in how PPP should be done with a high level of transparency. Research has shown that one of the problems that PPP suffers, especially in the developing world, is the level of transparency that is brought into the process. So you bring in the private sector in, and people are not aware of what the process is all about. But in this particular instance, when I first saw, there was a launching, I was like, okay, what is this HDMI? So I put it on Google, and it took me to a website. I was able to get into the website and see a lot of information, including, a memorandum of about 90-page information memorandum about the roads, prepared by KPMG. So I saw all the other partners that they're working with and that kind of, made me warm up to the project, and I've been following up on the project ever since then.
Quite interesting.
Then it has also gone through the RFQ process. That's a request for quotation, in which I think about 75 people went in with that. And the RFQ was also made available online. So you could go there, look at the conditions, what is the requirement, and you can put in your application.
It's a high level of transparency.
That is what I found most interesting about it so far. So the RFQ has gone, and then we are now at the RFP stage. So from 75 that put in for the RFQ, 18 got shortlisted. Out of the 18, 11 has now put in for the RFP.
Okay, but, looking at this strategy, how do you see it benefiting the Nigerian economy?
Wow, yeah, very, very important question. One thing that the Nigerians on the average can agree on is that the public money is not enough to bridge the infrastructure gap we have in this country. And if you take a look at money in the private sector, you will see that every time that the government comes out and say, oh, I want to raise a bond of 100 billion, it will get like 150, 200. So it will be the government that is saying, okay, it is 100 I asked for, so let me return all this. Or if I can take more, let me take a little bit more. What that shows us is that while the government is struggling with money, there is money in the private sector. So how do we bring in the private capital and the private competence, the management competence, into delivery of public goods? That is what I think the ministry is trying to do. Let's bring that capital. You guys have the money, right? That's fine. You have the management competence. That's good. Can we partner and deliver infrastructure? Can we deliver public goods? That's essentially what it is all about. So part of the cost that we are all carrying in this country is actually the cost of infrastructure. So when I produce a good, even if it's farm produce, over 40% of some categories of farm produce in Nigeria get rotten. And one of the reasons they get rotten, one of the reasons is transportation. Right. You can't get it to the location where they consume in good time. The roads are not there, the infrastructure is not there. So if you can use private capital to fast track infrastructure, it's a laudable idea to look at.
Quite, and I say another bidding process, was opened recently. But what's the process, and how does it ensure that capable companies are actually contracted at this point?
Fantastic. The conditions are set, which is what they have done right from the RFQ stage. So some people could not even meet the RFQ, so you shortlist yourself. You don't bother to apply. Then out of those that applied, there are certain evaluation metrics that are set. So you say, okay, if you are going to do this, you must have this, you must have that, you must have that. You must be able to do this, you must be able to do this and this. And then people are graded, they are scored. Okay, out of the 75, 18 met the standard. So we go to the next stage. Now, from this 18, 11 people have submitted the RFP. So they will go through an evaluation process again to determine who out of this 11, who is going to be a preferred bidder for a particular road, who will be the reserve bidder for a particular road. That's what process is next on the bill.
Quite interesting. But, talking about, bringing in the private sector, what is the cost implication actually for, bringing the private sector into this?
Yeah, that's typically the worry of the citizens that look, private money is not free. When they bring it, they want something in return. But we also now need to ask ourselves if we are already paying, because this will get to the issue of tolling on the roads. But the way the concession, which is called value-added concession, has been programmed, is not to create a heavy burden, a heavy toll burden on the citizen, because there are other benefits along the corridor. What the government is doing is concessioning that entire corridor to the concessionaire. So it will be able to provide services, filling station, towing vehicles, mechanic workshops, food vendors. All those are services that will be provided along those same corridors. And they are revenue generating services. And the concessionaire himself does not have to provide those services. He can get people to provide those services, and the people will pay some sort of rent. That way, the recovering of its investment is not based just on the toll, and the toll therefore does not become burdensome on the citizen. But let's look at the typical example of why I said we're already paying, we just don't know. If I'm doing a road that should take me 1 hour to get there, but because of the state of that road, the journey took 2 hours. The implication is that my fuel cost, I've paid double. There was no toll gate, too. But if I was meant to use 2,000 naira fuel, apparently I will have to use 4,000 naira fuel. It will have an effect on the wear and tear of my vehicle. If it's a product that has a shelf life that is short, I might have deterioration issues by the time I get to my location. There is a health challenge that has to do with sitting in a position for longer hours than you should be. All those ones, when you put it together, you see that the citizen is already bearing a cost. That if this process is properly managed and it delivered this infrastructure to us, all those costs might just be off the table for a much lesser cost, which could be the toll that you have to pay for getting on that road.
Right. But we still have the issue of, inflated contracts. How does this, help to remove all of that?
That's why I said the transparency, this is where it comes in. Now, this is not just the government. Of course, the government is the owner of the asset that is concessioning it. But it's working with some partners, professionals. There's a UK partner, there's our own, there's KPMG in this deal. What all of that helps to do is to put transparency to what we're talking about. Now, I've seen some of the names on that list of 11 that has gone in for the RFP. You have the Julius Berger of this world there. You have the Cetraco. You even have African Finance Corporation. So these are organizations that they're not some hidden, Papa Mama shop that are somewhere that are, cutting some funny deals behind. No. They come to the table with history of performance. And we have partners working on the other side to say, look, this is it, this is it. And this thing has also been made open to the public. So I believe that transparency, because what you're saying still borders on transparency.
Exactly.
Will this be inflated? It's not even a contract anyway. So the issue of inflation does not arise. What we should be talking about is the data. So government is not saying, oh, I've awarded this for 1.3 trillion. It doesn't arise. Government is saying, go and bring your money, come and do this road. So what we should be concerned about is the issue of data. So this road, how many kilometers is it? What is the toll per vehicle? How many years will the concession be? How long will it take for those are the things, and that is what all these partners bring to the table to ensure that those data are reliable and the partners can work with it.
Quite interesting. But who chooses, what road, to develop, at this point, to make sure there's an, equitable distribution when it comes to actually targeting these roads?
Yeah, it's we are very sensitive to those kind of things, And when you look at the list of the roads, there are 12 roads in this phase. You will see that those roads have been selected across the geopolitical regions. So the concern about geopolitical considerations have been taken care of. There's also the issue of, if I take the Southwest, for example, if I need to pick one road, which one should it be? What should drive that? So the level of activity, the busier roads, are more strategic because it means that a lot of activities take place on those roads. They will deliver the goods faster than when you go to the silent roads. So the regionalization thing is in consideration. Then the level of activities on those roads is also in consideration.
All right. So, what's the program for maintenance of this roads? Would it be safe to say this whole bureaucratic bottlenecks in maintenance would be out of the way with this?
It's one of the best part of this program. It's called Highway Development and Management Initiative. So when you concession that corridor, they will be providing, the concessionaire will be providing, apart from all those services I listed earlier, it will need to provide security and maintenance. So the roads must be kept in motorable condition. Otherwise, the program will have failed. What's the essence? The roads were there, they've been constructed. We're just saying that government does not have enough money to run the show. So bring this guy in, and they will ensure that the road is motorable. That's at the heart of what is supposed to deliver.
Because maintenance has been a major issue when it comes
to
infrastructure in this country. Correct. All right, tell us about the value-added concession procurement process under this HDMI.
Yeah, the procurement process is what we've been discussing, actually. When you're going into a PPP, there's the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Authority in Nigeria, which is meant to give you certain approval to go ahead. That organization is a federal government organization, and it gives the approval to go ahead. So the ministry, from what I've read, I've been working with the ICRC. In fact, the late DG of the ICRC is a friend of mine, and I've seen him on a couple of occasions discussing this particular project. So the necessary approval at the ICRC level has been done. Those approvals are also in stages. So at the relevant stage, the approval has been obtained. We've had the RFQ, which is also part of the procurement process. We've now gone into the RFP, that is also part of the procurement process. And along with these, you've had things like having the tolling policy. As a private sector person, if I'm going to go into a concession like that, I need to run certain numbers. And part of those numbers will be the tolling. So without a policy to guide that, it means you're leaving it open for the private sector to just run as they like. But what the ministry has done is to put a policy in place to guide the tolling. So the tolling policy has been put in place. It has also put in place something it called environmental and social management framework. You see, it's a corridor, and there are communities along those corridors. There are certain activities that's already going on there. And there will be impact. So we need to be able to put a framework to ensure that the concessionaire will have a proper engagement with the communities that are along that corridor.
Quite interesting. But these are early times. What's your outlook, for Nigerian roads going forward?
If you ask me, I think innovations like this are very important. The temptation, however, is to allow the system to rush. If the ministry should allow the system to rush in and say, do this, and you start to skip critical points that may compromise the transparency with which it started, then we'll run into trouble. Otherwise, this initiative is capable of not just delivering the 4.5, I think about 5.6 is what we are doing at this stage, 5.6% of the federal government roads. But according to the ministry, about 14.3% of the road qualifies for this same initiative. If we fail at the 5.6, we will have problem executing up to the 14.3 that we do. So we need to keep this working and work it properly.
All right, we'll keep tracking, this initiative, see how everything plays out. Thank you so much, Dr. Bola Olojide, Executive Director of DMA Advisory Services. It was great having you on the program today. Thank you so much.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you, too.
All right, so after the break, we get an outlook of innovation and trends in Nigeria's financial sector. That's in a moment. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning. Welcome back. Now to our next conversation. Nigeria's financial and banking sector has experienced remarkable transformation over the last 15 to 20 years. Long gone are the days of tally numbers or even traveling from one point to another to perform a banking transaction. There are now more tech-enabled products and services such as the USSD, internet banking, POS terminals, that have made financial services more accessible, flexible, and convenient. But what are the next trends to look out for? We have join us now, Mr. Ibrahim Ibitade, co-founder and CEO, Leatherback, joining us on the program. Good morning. Great to have you.
Hi, good morning, Laddie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell me, what is the current trend and innovation in the financial transaction ecosystem?
Well, I mean, it's been, like you mentioned, the financial sector in Nigeria has grown rapidly over the last couple of years. I mean, gone are those days when you needed to move from one place to another just to get money from one banking source to another. You've seen, and I always say factually that the Nigerian banking system is realistically one of the most developed in the world, largely because we've had things like instant payments way before many other countries across Europe and a couple of other countries outside Africa had instant payments. So beyond instant payments and a couple of other USSD-based solutions that have rapidly come up over the last couple of years, I mean, we've seen trends largely around client experience. I mean, clients are now more businesses are now more particular about giving clients a more immersive experience, as against the regular traditional transactional methods that the traditional banks used to offer their clients over the last couple of years. I mean, it's now more than just save money with me and make payments with me. It's now how businesses are making the effort to place themselves in the average life cycle of their particular client, the day-to-day regular activities, just to give them the best kind of experience available. I mean, and you see more businesses focusing more a lot on automation to make sure they drive operational efficiency. You are seeing different advancements in the adaptability of blockchain technology way beyond the cryptocurrencies, which quite a number of people are used to. I mean, cloud infrastructure is also another thing. I mean, you've seen instances where large multinationals and large corporates and even large financial services firms are now adopting cloud services as rapidly as possible. And it also goes a long way in allowing them to meet up with some of their environmental commitments too, and promoting decarbonization and also their policies and sustainability. And most importantly, of course, the concept of work. After the whole COVID-19 debacle that happened over the last couple of years, I mean, you've seen instances where concept of work has changed rapidly. Businesses now need to adjust to what individual talents are required to get work done immensely, and also the kind of services and products they offer clients, because most times you find that you can't give them the one-on-one direct experience you used to in the regular banking halls and all. Yeah.
Right, and you did mention blockchain, and the e-naira has been out for a while now. How would you describe acceptance of the e-naira? I know in China they're finding it hard even accepting the digital yuan there.
Yeah, I mean, it's every new technology takes time for adaptability. It takes a while. People need time to get used to it, need time to understand it. I know the central bank, for example, has done a lot in trying to educate Nigerians a lot about the importance of the e-naira. The banks have gone a long way, also trying to let Nigerians just put it on their banking applications and give Nigerians the ability to gain more access to it. So I think it's just a matter of time. But gradually, we should definitely see more adaptability around that.
Okay, but how would you rate Nigeria in the scheme of things? How much of these trends have been adopted at this point?
Wow. I mean, I think the answers are there for us to see. You've had we recently had a float wave. I mean, a unicorn last year, and now they're valued at over $3 billion. I mean, Africa alone generally has had over 5 to 6 unicorns over the last 2 years or so. Now narrowing it back to Nigeria, I mean, talking largely around adopting innovative agency banking-based solutions, which is really driving financial inclusion across Nigeria. You've seen the advent of data aggregators and payment enablers that are really enhancing business growth and promoting interoperability. I mean, you're seeing businesses getting more data-driven, and payment aggregation has gone just beyond make payments, integrate into APIs, and receive payments now. It's actually looking to harness proper data to help businesses make unique strategic decisions to enhance business growth. And financial inclusion is also going a lot more beyond just the local bit of things now. I mean, you're seeing Nigerians actively getting involved in the global talent space and in the global business space, either as investors, as regular travelers, as business owners themselves too. And you're seeing unique solutions coming out rapidly, giving Nigerians the ability to play their part in the global financial market, which is part of what we do at Leatherback anyway. And you also find instances where you're seeing many proponents of open banking solutions to enable further connectivity and also increase interoperability amongst our existing financial banking systems. And yeah, I mean, there's so many other things. We could go on and on around micro insurance solutions that are using technology to actually drive adaptability, the adoption of insurance, which is also pushing insurance inclusion to in one way or the other. So the trends are there, and I think over the next couple of months, we will see quite a lot of more unique, innovative solutions coming out, because the platform for everything, like I always say, is payments. Once you are able to give people the ability to collect, receive payments, harness data, the sky is the limit. You'll find unique, innovative solutions keep rapidly being churned out by Nigerians. Yeah.
Right, but it's obviously not without, challenges. What would you say are the challenges, of these trends in Nigeria, in relation to, an everyday Nigerian?
Well, I mean, the number one challenge you'll always find, will be protection and security. I think that's really key. You find instances where, and I will say that kudos to the regulators. I mean, regulators have gone a long way to set the right kind of standards for financial services firms and startups to make sure client funds are protected, transactions are protected, data is protected and all. But still, you find that as this unique, innovative solutions keep getting churned out, new unique methods are being developed to which can be dangerous to clients transactions, basically. So you find instances where companies face unique hard times in trying to ensure they maintain the sanctity of their products, right? And like I said, the other thing is also regulation. The regulation is not catching up fast enough to some of these growing technological trends. And I will say we need a lot more heavy and fast research on the side of regulators across Africa to just make sure they're catching up with these unique trends, because things are growing rapidly. You see new unique solutions coming out every day, and you find that the regulatory provisions are not even ready to cater to some of these unique solutions. So yeah, and also I'll say some of the challenges that major startups face around is also availability of talent. I mean, one thing that has rapidly been creeping into, and I'll say potentially hindering growth of some of the startups around Africa is the fact that you find that unique talent pool that we used to have access to on our own in Nigeria is no longer the case. The world is rapidly dipping into Nigeria's talent pool and making it harder for local firms to compete. So you need that regular, steady talent pool to keep things going.
So that's the brain drain issue there.
Exactly. It's a major brain drain issue. So it's gradually eating in, and you'll find that it's something that needs to be solved rapidly. But you find firms around that are trying to solve for those things, and but it's still a major problem, basically. So yeah, regulation, protection, and security, those are major things that I will say are part of the top challenges.
Talking about security, I read recently the Nigerian Communication Commission, alerted Nigerians to a newly discovered malicious software that steals users' banking app login credentials on Android devices. Quite scary. It's like the more techie problems here.
Well, I mean, I'll say that it should really be the more tech, the more solutions. The truth is that there isn't any unique solution that doesn't come with its own potential adverse effect. The only thing we can try to do, which also boils down to what I mentioned earlier about the fact that regulation, and the regulation has not caught up some of these technological trends to set the right standards for some of these services that are being rendered across Nigeria. You find that as much as these solutions are needed, they're required. They're actually solving genuine problems that individual Nigerians and business owners really need. However, they don't come with they all come with side effects. Majority of them come with side effects. Now, some of these side effects are standard. I'll give you typical examples. If you're getting a PSSP license in Nigeria, the CBN has set specific standards that you have to make sure you're PCI DSS certified. You have to make sure you're ISO certified, NTIL. You have to make sure you have data protection certification and all, just to maintain system integrity, right? But that's for payments. There's so many other unique solutions that there are angles of vulnerability that need to be addressed. So I think it's what we should be addressing here is, yes, it's more tech. It's not more tech, more problems. It's actually more tech, more solutions. However, we need to do a lot more work to set the standards for most of these unique, innovative solutions to meet up to those standards before they can roll out their product. I think the more we put effort in that, the more we'll find that things will get stable.
All right. Well, as a stakeholder there, how do you advise Nigerians, in adopting these trends or innovations in terms of integrity?
Well, I'll say number one thing should be always prioritize regulation. It's easy to. I've seen tons of instances where startups use the word disruption and we're changing the status quo. It's amazing. Yeah, it's what we are really doing. But at the same time, you find that there needs to be structure put in place. And I think I will advise Nigerians to make sure they always prioritize looking out for regulated products and services before they put their funds in or carry out their regular transaction to give them the right kind of comfort they need. You find that to an extent, even though, like I mentioned, regulatory bodies have not caught up yet, but there are still standards that have been set. They should look out for specific certifications, some of them NCIL, ISO, PCI DSS, and ask questions of these startups too. There are standards that needs to be met. I mean, we operate in the UK at Leatherback, and we fervently have to make sure we meet up to the GDPR requirements because we understand how important data protection is to the UK government and also across Europe. So the same standards too are out there in Nigeria and are questions that need to be asked. Are these things on their website? Are we mindful of data protection? Are we asking questions around how is my money protected? Are my funds insured? Right? Where's my money being kept? So those are the kind of things that we need to make sure we look out for before we start adopting some of these things,
right.
Particularly in terms of security. Yeah.
All right. So very briefly now, for a long time, the story of African, fintech has been payments focused. Are we going to see any, African P2P lending platforms, anytime soon, or any great insurtech companies?
Well, I'll say I mentioned this earlier during the course of our conversation, and I'm glad you also brought it up again. Payments has set the landscape. Payments has set the pace for everyone. And off the top of payments, you see that different things now start cropping up. You've seen the likes of Tangerine Life, Cassava, Fuller Advisors have been around for a while now. Those guys are really trying to push the frontiers of insurtech technology, insurtech across Africa. And I think you will find a lot more about the next couple of years cropping up because we have, yes, financial inclusion has been largely around giving people access to banking solutions, basic banking solutions, but people actually need access to insurance solutions too. And you find that some of these startups are really pushing the frontiers of that. So you will see a lot more of that. Peer-to-peer lending, it was a trend over the last couple of years, and I think we saw a decline there. But that was probably because I think that the system was not set up for it at that time.
Okay.
But I think over the next couple of years, you'll find more adoption of that and more startups coming up with unique solutions around those sectors.
All right. It'll be interesting to see what the next 5 to 10 years looks like in this space. We'll keep tracking it. Thank you so much, Ibrahim Ibita, the CEO, Leatherback, for coming on the program today. Thank you so much.
Take care. Yeah.
All right, now let's take a look at what's happening in the markets. We have Anita that's standing by there. Hello, Anita. How's it looking?
Good morning, Ladi. Brand new week, last day of February. I guess we're off to a bright start. But before that, I will be giving you a review of how the market ended the last full week of February. So starting first, let's get started with the FX market. The FX market, it was broadly positive, as you can see on the board here. The total value of transactions there was up by 38.82%, right here, at a total of $668.33 million dollars, as at that's as at February the 25th. Now, when you take a look at the total value at the investors and exporters window of the forex market, it was up by 23.65% at 409, almost $500 million. Then, in terms of the NAFEX rate, the naira was up by 0.12%. So that's just about how the market turned out at the forex market, the currencies market. Then, in terms of the fixed income market, it was bullish across board for the bonds market as well as the treasury bills market. Of course, we had FAC inflow from we had more than 359.76 billion FAC allocations by the federal government, by the Federal Allocations Committee. So, of course, we're going to see how that turns out for the market this week. Now, turning over to the stock market, let's talk to Jamiu Mohammed, who is a stockbroker at APT Securities Limited. Thank you for joining us, Jamiu.
Good morning.
Okay, well, because of time, I think I'll just have to rush up. Last week, the market, it was tilting in between profit-taking as well as bargain hunting, and we saw the share price of Seplat drive the market. So now, what's happening to Seplat, especially now that it has struck a deal to buy the entire share capital of Mobil Producing Nigeria?
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here on the program. And as you have rightly said, this upsurge you will witness on the shares of Seplat in the market was as a result of the acquisition of Seplat of the entire share capital of Mobil Producing Nigeria Unlimited. So this transaction alone is going to be a cash transaction of about 1,283 million plus contingent consideration, and this is subject to some working capital and other adjustments. This transaction, as we see it, there must be a ratification. There must be approval from the Minister of Petroleum, and also the regulatory body. So this transaction is what made the stocks to have that gain. And also, as we speak in the market today, it's still on big. We have a lot of buyer coming out to take part in the rally on that stock because of what the stock is going to listen. And if you look at this transaction alone, you will realize that this transaction will create at least one of the largest energy companies in both Nigerian stock exchange and also London stock exchange. And this transaction alone, after the transaction will bring about 186% in increased production of Seplat and also have 170% liquid reserve for Seplat and 14% reserve to Seplat and also 89% total reserve to the reserve of Seplat. So all this information what this transaction is about to bring to the table, and that's the reason why you see a lot of investors are scampering for this stock and making sure they get their own share before the price upsurge outweigh the effect.
Okay, so now with that being said, we're very, very much deep into the middle of the first quarter. Very soon, tomorrow we're going to enter the month of March. And then, of course, we should be very soon be expecting first quarter results from listed companies. But at the moment, we're still expecting corporate results from some listed equities. So how's that panning out for the market?
Yes, there is this new amendment to the disclosure of this financial report. If you know you cannot bring out your audited financial report at the end of March, you should be able to produce the quarter four results by February, which most of these companies have paid. Having said that, from what we have seen in the quarter four of most of these results has been declared, though subject to regulatory approval after the audited report. So we expect that these companies are going to give us a better result, and the results we have seen so far is encouraging, and we have seen that we are going to have a very good run for the first quarter. Since we're in earnings season, we expect that the result and that's going to be declared by these companies is going to be encouraging.
Okay, so thank you very much for that information, Jamiu. So that was Jamiu Mohammed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that was Jamiu Mohammed, stockbroker at APT Securities Limited. So now we turn our attention all to the smaller unlisted securities market, which it ended last week. The whole of last week, it was down by more than 0.5%. And then, of course, we saw investors there losing about 3.4 billion naira in value, which is currently at 618.66 billion naira. But in terms of the volume was up by more than 355%, while the value was up by 310%, which is what you see here. And then the total number of deals was 70, which was also slightly higher in contrast to what we had in the previous week. So that's how the market turned out for the last trading week of February. And then, of course, we will be having our eyes out for all the markets of the four markets for this week. That's the FX market, the equities market, the fixed income market, as well as the unlisted securities market. But all of that, of course, we will keep our eyes out for how it turns out.
All right, it'll be watching how the market play out this week and even in March. Let's hope to see more green. All right, Anete, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
All right, so we'll take a break now. When we come back, we head to London. That's in a moment. Do stay with us. All right, let's take a look at what's happening in the UK with Juliana there. Great to have you, Juliana. So we see Russia hiked key interest rates to 20% after the ruble slumped to a record low. How are analysts seeing this move?
Good morning, Nadia. Well, it's pretty complicated because the Russian economy is rather opaque. But from what I can see, of course, we've entered day 5 of this Russian invasion into Ukraine. And over the weekend, Britain, America, the EU, as well as other Western allies have joined forces to make it extremely difficult for major Russian financial institutions to access federal US reserves. This has pushed the ruble to a 30% low against the US dollar. And in response to this, the Russian central bank has hiked that main interest rate from 9.5% to about 20%. Of course, this is to alleviate surge in inflation and a price hike at shops. We have seen reports, especially this morning, of Russians queuing, hours-long queues, to try and get their money out of banks because they can see that the ruble is falling. And until there is some sort of diplomacy, it is going to continue being this way. I think that the main crux of this is SWIFT. That is the central payment system that I believe about 11,000 banks and financial institutions across the world are plumbed into. Now, there were reports late last week that there were some European countries, Germany in particular, that were against pulling Russia out of this because it's well plumbed in. If it affects Russia, then it affects everybody. But alas, it's happened, and this is having serious ramifications, so much so it is squeezing Putin finally. But let's see if it's enough for him to pull back the troops.
Yeah, talking about squeezing, we see the banking system is under severe, pressure following this financial sanctions announced, and UK included in this. But what more can you tell us about these sanctions?
Well, this is all part of the same story, Laddie. So this is the removal of Russian access to the SWIFT banking system really hits Russia where it hurts. But I think markets are holding their breath, which is why Europe is all in the red this morning, because they know that this will definitely have an effect on consumers and on them. So the fact that now Russia has been removed from the SWIFT banking system means that the big oil and gas firms that are paid through and via SWIFT, they can no longer be paid through that. We're expecting a barrel of Brent crude to soar well above perhaps $110, even $115. We saw that it was trading above $103 late last week. So that's certainly going to happen. Is Russia going to, try to double the efforts and impose sanctions in the other way round? That's a huge concern. I think in the past we've seen Iran and Venezuela, they were blocked from using SWIFT. Some suggestions from some analysts that perhaps China, Iran, Russia may team together to create another alternative system. I think that was one of the reasons why Joe Biden and some others were a little bit hesitant last week to pull Russia completely from SWIFT, because once you do that, you leave them on their own. And of course, they are still a very powerful nation. And there are other powerful nations that want an alternative to the Western system that we know. So it's still a developing story. But as we can see, the Russian ruble, 30% low against the US dollar, the worst it's slipped in its history, and it could get worse in the coming days.
All right, we'll keep tracking activities there. Thank you so much, Juliana. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right, let's look at what's happening in other markets now. We see Bitcoin there struggling to clear the 40,000 resistance zone. Let's take a look at the market cap. The $1.71 trillion is the market cap. It's down 2.67%. Volume traded at $85.22 billion, up about 29.46%. And see Bitcoin dominance 41.96%. Price of Bitcoin at 8 a.m. $37,969. That's down about 2.17%. Volume traded 24.97 billion. Let's look at the Ethereum there, $2,608. That's also down 4.70%. Its volume, $17.20 billion. We're seeing a lot of pullbacks right now in the market. Even top alts by market cap. You see BNB there down 2.30%. It's in the red. Cardano down 1.02%. Solana down 2.23%. And we see XRP losing that 80 cent mark. All right, let's bring in Olumide Adesina, our financial market analyst. Hello, Olumide.
Yeah, hello, Laji. Good morning.
Good morning, Olumide. Great to have you. So it's still the Russia-Ukraine issue. Yeah, we see cryptocurrencies, have been used to crowdfund, the Ukrainian army, and also used to assist Russia in avoiding sanctions. It seems crypto has a role to play in all of this.
Yeah, just like you rightly said, we are seeing that investors are looking at the crypto market more as a transactional tool than a store of value, because taking into consideration that Bitcoin, a lot of investors have used Bitcoin to support the Ukraine military. In fact, recent statistics suggest that about 10 million worth of Ethereum and Bitcoin has been sent to that parameter. But having said that, we are seeing that Bitcoin is losing that safe haven fundamental, knowing fully well that during times of crisis, one will expect assets like this to grow. But investors seem to be excited towards gold and the US dollar. So that's why we are seeing price moderating to the $38,000 mark. And I think concerns that President Putin on high alert has also kept investors on very nervy. But I think one of the exciting things coming in the crypto market is in the play to earn space, where we see Axel Infinity bringing in more than $4.1 billion in sales. That just tells you the impact NFTs are having in the gaming world. So I think while geopolitical uncertainty is keeping a lot of investors shaky, I think the NFT space is bringing some excitement.
Quite interesting, the NFT space holding up quite well. But what are your expectations for the week for Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think that my expectations will be very volatile. This is the time the market geopolitical uncertainty has really weighed on the market macro, so investors need to be very careful. I think a break below $38,000 might push Bitcoin trading between 30 to 35 in the net time, but I think the whole picture is looking very bearish right now until we see clarity in the Russian Ukraine conflict.
All right. All right, Lumine, thank you so much. We'll keep tracking to see how that all plays out in the market. All right, now let's bring down the top 5 gainers there. We'll see Filecoin there topping. It's up about 7% this morning. And we see Uniswap there up 6.76%. RREEF, $29.12 per coin. It's up about 6.31. And we'll see Flow there at $5.87, up 4.77%. And Internet Computer, ICP, back on the gainers counter, but not by very much. It's up 1.37%. And Harmony leading the top losers there, down 9.73%. Phantom DAG blockchain, that's $1.59, is down about 8.8%. 1%, and we'll see Tezos also down 8.60%, and AVAX there down 6.63%. So the crypto market is still looking for direction this morning. We still expect a lot of volatility for the week. All right, that's it on the crypto space and the show this morning. Thank you so much for watching. Do remember to join us at 1:30 for Business Incorporated for more business development. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now.